Welcome to Kundalini Without the Cult. We are coming to the end of 2024 and into a new year, 2025. I'm here with Guru Singh to talk about the upcoming year. And I just wanted to start with a conversation that we had just before the holidays here, and then we can move into today's topic. And that conversation was me asking you a question. And that question was, with all of the upcoming events, will you, that are coming up in the new year, what did you feel was the most important area of my life? And this includes everyone as well. Where should we focus in this upcoming year? And your response was to keep a steady daily practice. And at the time, it's kind of like one of those like duh, like obvious moments. But then sometimes like the most profound things are these simple statements. And then you unpack them a bit and you think, oh wow, there's really something there. And that's what that was for me. Like when you said it, it resonated as true. Yes, stay steady, do your practice. And then while I've been spending time at home and in reflection and meditation with my partner and just having some quiet times in nature, those words keep ringing true and they really resonate. The importance of being stable and steady in practice as we move into this upcoming year. And I really wanted to share that with our listeners and our members at 13 Moons, because I have a sense that other folks are going to have a similar experience, which is a yes, I want to do that, and then unpack what the significance of that would look like in their lives. So maybe we can start there. And it's great to see you. And thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah, welcome everyone. And we haven't been as consistent with all that we're doing at the 13 Moons. We haven't been as consistent as we want to be with these podcasts, but we will endeavor to be more frequent in the time to come.
Mm.
You know, one of the one of the facilities and facilitations of life is, how do we experience the what is? How do we experience what is happening around us and what is being influenced with all of the people that are around us? There's some things that are of common influence that are influencing us all. And then there are other things that influence just particular individuals. And because all of this then plays out in our lives on the stage of each day, the only thing that we can really fall back on is a greater awareness, because it is with that greater awareness that we're able to find the needle of joy, love, calm, wisdom, whatever it is that is your needle, so to speak, in the haystack of humanity's insanity. And I know that's a cliche, right? And it's a rhyming cliche, but it has never been perhaps more true, even though humanity has been insane for millennia. Right now, there's this tremendous capacity to cross reference, to use another cliche, to cross pollinate our enormous capacity to be out of touch with any natural flow. And for example, politics has become a 24-hour news cycle, 365 days a year, whereas it used to just be, during the election times, politics would become important to everyone. And we're all being drawn into the political fray because it's just a power struggle. It does control a lot of the capital of the world, and it controls a lot of what happens in the world, and it also controls a lot of what's going to determine the effectiveness, the efficacy of humanity's living on this planet as we go forward into the future, because nation states are going to determine just how seriously we take climate situation, just how seriously we take pollution, just how seriously we take all of these very critical issues that are upon us at this time in history. And so, that being said, it still doesn't have to be in our face 24/7, nor does all of the other discrepancies that we are involved with as human beings, all of the other adversities and all of the other polarities. And so, what we need to really do is we really need to take a step back on a daily basis and dive into ourself, however it is that we do that. And people have a remarkable create amount of creativity to come up with ways in which they can dive deeper into that self-awareness and into that communal awareness and into that societal awareness and into that international global awareness. And that's why I say our personal practice is the thing that can't be irregular in this time of significant irregularity.
Yeah, you mentioned something in our conversation earlier, and I wrote it down just to make sure that I have it right. And that is that you said the only thing stable in this coming time will be personal practice.
Yeah.
You want to
And it'll,
expand a little bit on that?
yeah, well, it's up to us to make it stable, right? The only thing that is possibly capable of being stable is our personal dedication to self awareness, to societal awareness, not just awareness of ourself, but our awareness of our role in regarding the people that are around us. And so the way in which we can enable that awareness is through a practice of whatever we use to get in touch physically, whatever we use to enable that to be balancing us emotionally, and whatever we use to clarify ourselves mentally, and whatever we use to create connection in spirit, in soul body, these, what we call sadhana, these personal practices, are the things that we need to make stable so that they are the only thing that is stable. This is essential, and more essential now than ever before, because we can be an influencer or we can be the influenced. And if we are the influenced, we're just basically chasing our tail. It's a never ending cycle of some meaningful and a lot that's meaningless, that is capturing the attention of those around us and being shared with us. And so, if in the process of that mutual sharing, we can share inspiration rather than the fascination with a global desperation, then we are contributing to a greater stability. Yeah, we are contributing because the only thing that's guaranteed right now is unconsciousness. And the lack of guarantee on conscious stability is what we need to work not so much against, but we need to work with in order to modify it. You know, we have to be able to be an influencer to modify the global instability. Mm. Because people are making a lot of avenues to power,
Mhm.
collection of wealth through the collective instability, through the collective chaos. There's a great subject. It's called chaos capital, and it's been studied in universities for a few decades. But really, it's coming to um, an evidential peak, if you will, and that is that there's a lot of power that can be grabbed in chaotic times. There's a lot of wealth that can be grabbed in chaotic times. And if you think about it, it's just sort of the preeminent result of fast marketing, right? Because what is marketing about? It's a psychology of making people feel that they are insufficient unless they buy your product.
Mhm.
And if you're creating chaos and disorder, and then accompanying that chaos and disorder with the claim that you're the savior, so to speak, right? Not to make it religious, but the savior in any way, then you've got a marketplace because people start to listen.
Yeah. I also wrote another note down here that is in relationship to what you're saying, and what you had said was that everything is in critical mode, which you just described with environment and with the chaos of politics, etc. Everything is in critical mode, and the unconscious are freaking out. And the majority of the infrastructure is in the hands of the unconscious, which means is in the hands of the chaos, which is marketed to you like the solution to what you're feeling is our proposed product or way of living, or even just buying into this as reality. And then that was me riffing, by the way, on what you said at the end
I
there.
love it. I
And
love it.
then
Good riff.
and
Good riff.
then uh you finished by saying there is no place to turn except within, which is what we're talking about with the daily practice, so that you can exist within the chaos without being chaotic yourself.
Mm. Yeah. And I'd like to just reach out into another area that is being affected. So, when the unconscious that are not controlling the chaos, there's unconsciousness that is providing the chaos, and then there is the unconsciousness that is the recipient of the chaos. And that's the model that's taking place in the world at large today. And what happens in chaotic times is people reach for in desperation. And let's look at the word disparate, means without spirit, without a connection to soul. People reach in desperation for likeness, and familiarity. So if in a desperate moment you are of a different sexual orientation, you will not be comforting to me if I am unconscious. As a matter of fact, you will be threatening to me. My belief system will convince me that your presence is threatening. If you are of a different nationality, if you are of a different, and I don't like using the word because there's really no such thing as race, but because it's commonly understood, let's just use it and hold it in a definition that there's no such thing as race, but that which we commonly think of as race, there is one race, the human race. But that which we commonly think of as race is also going to be very much the recipient of discrimination. So sexual orientation, gender orientation, and also gender aspiration, racial definition, all of these things are the reasons why in chaotic times the population becomes more bigoted, more biased, more intolerant. And that's what we're experiencing right now. It's the global impact of the current version of the capital system that is causing a lot of displacement of humanity, mass migrations, and then where these people are trying to move to in order to find some security, they're being rejected. It's happening throughout Europe. It's happening throughout the Americas. That those areas that are being completely destroyed and disrupted by climatic conditions, by wars that are being waged for the purpose often of resources, is causing massive displacement. Millions and millions and millions of human beings are looking for a safe place to land. And then you've got the unconscious human beings throughout the world that are feeling like they own the territory that they occupy. And like the indigenous people, we don't own anything. We don't even own our body. When we die, we have to return it. We return it to the rental agency, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't own the land. Nationalities make claim to the land, but it's a false claim when you look at it in the more cosmic picture. And they're rejecting these migrations that are, for the most part, being caused by them. And so you have this ticking time bomb, if you will, that's at some point in the very near future going to reach critical moment. And what you and I are trying to do is you and I are trying to uplift people, educate people, join together with people so that we can avoid the critical moment by making changes, by shifting awareness prior to that moment when all hell breaks loose globally, whether it's a natural disaster accumulation or human disaster accumulation. And so then back to the point that you were asking about, the primary goal at this moment for us as more compassionate, perhaps, more conscientious, maybe, is that we become a stable or stabilizing influence on not only our own life, but the lives of the people that are around us. That we become the calm in the storm. That we become shelter, if you will. That old song, right? Make me the shelter in the storm, right?
Mhm. I was thinking about the words compassionate disobedience while you were
Mm,
describing that, where it's like
that's a
the
keeper.
yeah, the compassionate disobedience, where it's like I will not buy into your system, but I also won't like participate in the othering that happens within the system. I can say no, not going that way. And I remember you used to say to me years ago, we've known each other for over 10 years now, and you used to say to me, like, we're going to ruffle some feathers, but we'll do it with a hug. That's
Yeah.
that compassionate disobedience. And in order to do that, what we're talking about here is to have something that will support you to do it. Because in a conversation like this, or in theory, it sounds like an easy thing to do, but sometimes you can get swept up in it. You know, if you're tired and you have a lot of responsibilities and your kids are busy and you are arguing with your partner or whatever, like life is happening. And then there are these moments that are calling you to be stable. And it's easy to slip up. And it's okay if you do slip up, you can always start again. But I think what we're talking about with the stability here is this like daily check in with yourself so that you're able to show up as best you can um, for this compassionate disobedience, if you will. So that, and that's an inspiration to other people. I mean, I've had that a lot in my life. People have been like, wow, it's amazing that, you know, you chose to be kind in that situation or whatever it might be. And so that gets carried forward. I was also thinking about Ram Dass said something that resonates here that I think you'd find interesting if you hadn't heard the story before. But he was talking about the when he was at Harvard as Richard Alpert, and they used to run these tests on people. And the test was, let's say there was like four subjects who were in the room, and they're in on the gag, if you will, like they're in on what's happening. And then the person who enters the room believes that the other four people are just like them. They don't know each other, and they're just here to be a part of the test. So four people are in on it. The one person comes in, they don't recognize that the others are in on it. They think they're all equal and in the test. And they show two lines in the test. One is longer and one is shorter. And what happens is that the four who are in on it, in a very convincing manner, they ask the question, the person doing the test asks the question, which line is the shorter line? And the four who are in on it, they say the longer line. And they have all of these convincing arguments that the longer line is the shortest line. And this goes on and on. And it's something like 70 to 80% of the time, the person who's there in the test goes along with the group and says that the longer line is shortest, even though it's obviously not true. And I bring that up just to say, like, it's so easy for us to get wrapped up in, and that is sort of a chaotic experience because you're looking at something that's true and you're having these external influences tell you that it's not true, and then you question yourself and then you go along with it. And the kind of stability we're talking about here is the ability to go, now wait a minute here, I've never met these four people before, they're very convincing, but if I just check in with this inner part of my beingness, the honest truth is, like, maybe something's happening with my eyes, I don't know, but the shorter line is the shorter line. And then you speak it, even though the people around you try to convince you otherwise. And that's the kind of stability that we're talking about here.
I'm really glad that you bring this up because that story affects me in my entire history. And I
Mm,
believe that many of the thousands of people that watch these Kundalini Without the Cult videos, podcasts,
mm.
will feel the same way because I don't consider myself to be different than any of you out there. I don't consider myself to be better or lesser than any of you out there. And so I I ask you, as I declare from within myself, that's happened to me all my life. All my life, I've been, and it's not like 7 days a week, but
24/7.
yeah, from time to
Yeah.
time, I'm in a group setting in which
Mhm.
I'm either one of a very few or the only one who actually sees it the way I see it. And for the most part, what it told me was you just don't fit in. You don't fit in wherever you are, you just don't fit in. And so I have found myself not fitting in for the majority of my life because the shorter line is the shorter line. And those of you who are claiming that the longer lines are the shorter lines are full of shit, you know,
Yep.
humbly speaking, you know,
Humbly speaking.
humbly
Yes.
and compassionately speaking, you're just full of shit.
Compassionate disobedience. That's
Yeah.
it.
By the way, I just wrote down something that I would suggest we all practice.
Okay.
Compassionate rage. All right.
Uh-huh.
It reminds me of another of our, I knew Richard Alpert before he
Hmm.
was Ram Dass. He had a company called, he and Timothy Leary had a company called Solco, 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 out of Palo Alto, California, after they had left Harvard and came to Stanford. And Solco was actually meant sun company, right? Or the company of light. And anyway, um, his attitude was that you have this ability to believe in yourself and believe and share that belief with others, which is a grace. And you have to do it fiercely. And so he coined this term fierce grace,
Mm,
which
love
is
it.
which is the name of the documentary about his life also.
Mhm.
And so these juxtaposed words like compassionate rage, what compassionate rage is in the midst of your being told that the longer line is the shorter line, and everybody is saying all of the good reasons why the longer line is the shorter line. Compassionate rage is that without offending, like you were saying, I had said that do it with a hug,
Mm,
that without offending, without saying, you're just all full of shit, you know, you phrase it because your attitude is compassionate. If you attach fierceness, or as I said, rage to it, that
hmm.
gives that compassion some real oomph. And you'll literally lift the room over the finish line with that attitude. And most likely, what'll end up happening is the room will break down and say, "Oh, we were testing you," blah blah, and all of a sudden the truth will come out. Yeah, and if you really oppose the room, in other words, it's not compassionate rage; it's just rageful rage. Then it all breaks down into a squabble. But it's that compassionate rage, which is basically the martial art of Akidao, or as they pronounce it incorrectly, Aikido. And Akidao means the Aki of the Tao, which means the Aki is the lack or of ki, of force, right? The lack of force of the Tao. In other words, the Tao is going to show you without forcing you to see. And that's what Aikido or Akidao is. It uses your energy to tumble you into submission. And this is going to be very important. This is going to be the art, the martial art that we as soul oriented humanity are going to need to practice going forward. Because if we try to oppose the opposition, we'll be destroyed. Because the opposition has the greater population, billions to our millions. The opposition has the majority of the global capital, the money, which in fact is just a fiction, but everybody bows to it. So because it's a fiction that everyone is bowing to, it has power. And the reality of what we're dealing with here is quite like the children's game of pickup sticks, where you take that canister full of those thin, like long toothpicks, and you cast them into a pile. And then you have to see how many you can remove before the pile collapses. And that's what we have to do. We have to literally do a game of cosmic pickup sticks so that we can eliminate the falsehoods to the degree that we can before the falsifying natures discover that we're eliminating falsehoods.
Uh-huh.
Because those who are capitalizing on falsehoods are not going to respond kindly if we are caught eliminating falsehoods. So we can't go out there and say, you guys are full of shit. This is the way it is. Can't you see? Blah, blah. We can't go out there and make a big to-do. We have to be the infiltrators, the counterintelligence agents that infiltrate behind the lines of the unconscious so that we can share nuggets of awareness with the innocent ones that are caught in amongst the not as innocent ones. And then our numbers become not millions, not tens of millions, but hundreds of millions, as opposed to the unconscious billions. And because we have more leverage with greater wisdom, we will, as long as our ultimate goal is compassionate, we will change the nature of human nature to be more aligned with Mother Nature.
Well said. I was thinking of two great teachers and their take on what you just shared. And the first is Jesus is to be in the world, but not of the world. And the second was the Buddha's skillful means, which is that disrupting in a way that you almost don't even notice that the disruption is taking place.
Yes, both of them.
Yeah.
Hail,
Yeah.
hail. Hail,
Yeah.
hail to Jesus and to Buddha.
I love it.
And
So let's so someone's listening to this and let's say that it's resonating with them. Maybe they have a practice, but they've been inconsistent with it. or maybe they're newer to the practice, someone that's not consistently showing up for whatever reason, and they're listening to this and they think, you know what, it's a new year, a lot of people go through this, I want to make this commitment, make this change, find this stability. What advice would you give to these people? Or even someone who would want to pass this on to someone they know who's a student or a friend or a family member.
To me, and I've practiced this for decades,
Mm-hmm.
the most important attitude to have in discipline is forgiveness. Because regardless of how skilled you are, how consistent you are going to mess up. And rather than allowing the process of messing up to become a deterrent or to become a disorienter, it has to become a simple opportunity of forgiveness. And when messing up becomes an opportunity of forgiveness, then messing up actually becomes fuel, becomes energy. For example, let's just focus a little bit on the Buddha's art of skillful means. What if you make a self-correction and you share that self-correction inappropriately aggressive, and you get significant pushback to the point of where any gain that you had made with any group of people or individual has been significantly set back? Got to forgive yourself. Can't trouble about it. Because no matter how energetically you trouble yourself, you're not going to change the what has been. You can only change the what will be. And so my first rule is forgiveness. My second rule is rapid apology. And my third rule is try it again. I've only done one thing in my life that was contrary to the if at first you don't succeed, try again. And that one thing was skydiving. When you jump out of an airplane, if at first you don't succeed does not apply. There is no way once you've jumped to get back in. So you got to keep going forward. But in every other circumstance, if at first you don't succeed, try it again. But the only way you're going to try it again in a compassionate way, in a loving way, and in a not guilt-filled way is through forgiveness and an apology and, move on, move forward. And so it's really important, particularly now, those of us that are, practicing these practices for decades are at no greater advantage than those who are struggling to get started. Because the times that are upon us are what I would refer to as a great equalizer. Because there is no local anymore. Everything is global. We're all in the same boat. And even though this extreme nationalism, is trying to make, the nation state the be all end all, and the isolation. And there is no isolation. I can remember back in the day when they allowed smoking on an airplane. There was no such thing as a non-smoking section because the smoke filled the airplane.
Right. It's an illusion.
It's an illusion. And that's what is happening in the world today. There is no such thing as my land and your land, or my air and your air, or my water and your water, or my resources and your resources. That's vanishing. And that's another reason why so many of the unconscious desperates, I guess we could call them desperados. That's a good
Mhm.
word that's
Mhm.
sort of been out of use for a while, right?
Mhm.
Since the days of the wild, wild west, and desperados or the pirates.
Yeah.
Yeah. Since those days, you know, we're all going to become desperados in the very near future
Mhm.
because everything is going to be affecting everyone. And the old Zen saying of butterfly flaps its wings in Japan and the wind blows in Brazil is going to become much, much more obvious.
Yeah. And it will require us, those of us who are taking the time to be stable amongst this chaos, to recognize that and to be the examples of those who came before us, like Nanak's, there is no Hindu, there is no Muslim. Even like you hear it in yoga, sometimes people talk about concepts like cultural appropriation and this practice belongs to India, or comments like that. And then if you look at the sages that really inspire you, like if you're a student of yoga like we are, they're not saying that. They're saying this is a gift to humanity or a gift to the world. And it's
Yeah.
that othering behavior that happens that is that illusion. Like you said, like there is no non-smoking and smoking section. It's
And no
all
one and no
happening
one
right here.
and no one owns a culture.
Yeah.
People could say, "Hey, Guru Singh, why are you Guru Singh? Why aren't you Jerry Pond? You know, and why are you wearing a turban? Why don't you just comb your hair down and hang out like a Westerner?" Everything has grown from appropriation. Chemistry. Chemists in Russia trade their discoveries with chemists in Bulgaria, with chemists in America. Mathematicians trade their discoveries. All of these things, whether it's something that we wear, whether it's a way in which we practice, this cultural appropriation idea to me is an ownership of a non ownership circumstance. It's like Chief Sealth said, how can I trade something? They wanted to trade land for land. How can I
Mhm.
trade something that I don't even own? Because the indigenous people throughout the world never felt like they owned any of the land. They were simply blessed to use it. Indians don't own yoga. Indians don't own the idea of a turban any more than English speaking people own the English language. You could say that if someone is, in France and they're speaking English, why that's a linguistic misappropriation. Yeah, excuse me? Not at all. And if I use it and then I use it in a different way, that's my opportunity to expand its application. Uh, this is a bit of a tangent, but it's also very much equal to the center of our topic, in that the chaos that is evident and becoming even more so globally can be reduced by all of us taking the right to practice whatever we find is effective in our daily routine, whether it's mantras, whether it's dancing, whether it's mountain or beach or prairie walking,
Mm.
whether it's silent, mantric meditations, whether it's physical exercises or physical stillness, whatever it might be. You have the right, if it exists, you have the right to use it and find how to build your own daily routine with the tools that are now quite available because of everything being online. The tools from around the world, from all of the various cultures that are at our fingertips to be able to create a greater consciousness, a greater awareness in these times of significant unconsciousness.
There's this teaching in Ayurveda where they say the primordial cause of disease is forgetting who you are.
Hmm.
And I
Wow.
would say that this chaos that we're talking about, even people like othering within communities that are meant to uplift and bring awareness, is a form of that, right? It's like forgetting what the practice is for, or forgetting like this is about feeling an interconnectedness with all beings or with your neighbor or whoever. And then the practice of awareness, that the stability that we're talking about in relationship to the chaos, which we could say is forgetting who you are, is a daily remembering who you are. And as you were talking about some of the indigenous wisdom and Chief Seattle, I was thinking about this poem by Joy Harjo, the indigenous poet. I really love her work, and I just thought, as we come to the close here, I would share this short poem with you. I think if you haven't heard it before, I think it'll really resonate and bring a nice closing to our time here together. So she wrote this in 1951, and the poem's called "Remember." And here's what she said: Remember the sky that you were born under. Know each of the stars' stories. Remember the moon. Know who she is. Remember the sun's birth at dawn. That is the strongest point of time. Remember sundown and the giving away to night. Remember your birth, how your mother struggled to give you form and breath. You are evidence of her life and her mother's and hers. Remember your father. He is your life also. Remember the earth whose skin you are: red earth, black earth, yellow earth, white earth, brown earth. We are earth. Remember the plants, trees, animal life, who all have their own tribes, their families, and their histories too. Talk to them, listen to them. They are alive poems. Remember the wind, remember her voice. She knows the origin of this universe. Remember, you are all people, and all people are you. Remember, you are this universe, and this universe is you. Remember, all is in motion, is growing, is you. Remember, language comes from this. Remember, the dance language is that life is. Remember.
Wow.
Pretty potent one. And you know, with this daily practice, like you could take a poem like that, and it could be your own words or the words of someone else. And like you could just wake up in the morning and read that. It'd take you as long as it just took me. And I bet you if you did that for 30 or 40 days every day, you would see a profound effect on the way that you experience the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Remember,
Remember.
which is the word, right?
Mhm.
To become a member again of yourself. Mm, really good.
Yeah. Awesome.
Really good. Bless you, man. It's good to have
Bless you.
these it's good to have these chats. And it's
Mhm.
good to have all of those of you who listen. We would love to have you participate in our greater community. So come and join
Yeah,
us and participate with us and share with us so that we can make each other more powerful.
that's right. And I'll put all of the links in the show notes here. So whether you're on YouTube or Spotify, you can check out the 13 Moons and see what we're doing over there with Guru Singh and our inspiring community. And we're wishing you all a happy new year and hoping that you find stability in your practice. And if you need community, 13 Moons is a great place to do it. And we'll see you on the next episode of Kundalini Without the Cult.
Bless you.
Bless you.